think what's important about this thing is that most of your work in radio has been dealing with jazz. Not that that's the only thing you know or anything you do, but you have most of your radio experience is dealing with jazz radio, right?
Yes.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Music Mindset channel. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm talking to my friend, my main man, Vernon Williams. He's got a story to tell. He used to do some radio announcing in the New York era over the last 20, 30 years. I'll let him tell you about it. But the number one thing is I really want to know what he thinks about what has happened with music over the last couple of decades and stuff like that. And I'll let him get into that.
I did my first internship at an R&B radio station. And then I applied for a job without any experience. And
like most of us?
Yeah, like most of us, right? And took that chance. But I hadn't been to broadcasting college. You know, I had a degree in broadcasting. So I went to, and see, the funny thing about it, I went to school in New York City.
Okay, and that's what I want to get into.
Yeah.
Is the fact because you were doing, so you were doing jazz radio in the big market or in the big city, at least.
Yeah.
Which is a little different from some of the smaller markets where smaller audiences, it isn't taken as serious as it might be. I mean, you get booed off the stage at the Apollo type thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't like that. Let me say, ask this to you. How would you feel if your homework assignment for that particular day, for that particular week, was going to a show at the Blue Note in New York and listening to a Dextor Gordon concert or a Dextor Gordon show?
Wow.
Because I was pretty close to Dextor Gordon as well. And it was through my radio contacts that I became friends with Dextor Gordon, because at that time he was living in East Orange, New Jersey. So what I learned by going to school in New York and living up in New Jersey, most of the major jazz artists were in the Northeast area.
Right, and that was what I wanted to get into. So
that was a real stomping ground for me.
Okay.
You know, really, you know.
Northeast.
Basically New York. Hanging out in Greenwich Village. My fellow students, somebody might have been related to somebody or knew someone. And we really made the rounds to these jazz clubs. Because I was really, really trying to learn this music. Because at that time, I had been fascinated, but now I'm really fascinated because now I'm meeting the people who are producing this music.
Right, and you find yourself that at some point in time, you're going to have to talk about it and inform other people, and you want to be knowledgeable about it and stuff like that.
And it's important.
Okay.
You know.
So you had an experience with Sarah Vaughan at one time, huh?
Yeah, Sarah Vaughan. Me and Sarah Vaughan are from the same hometown. We're from Newark, New Jersey. And I gotta admit, back in those days, as a young announcer, really trying to make his way into radio, I did some things that were considered very naive, that I learned later on, But I think what pushed me through it, because I was really hungry, trying to really meet these people and know something about them without doing any research on their characters. And I'm talking about Sarah Vaughan, Miles Davis, anybody you brought in front of me. But I remember with Sarah Vaughan, we were at a restaurant. And you always try to pick that certain moment where you can make that connection. And I thought, man, I could make this. I'll let her know that we're from the same hometown, and we can, we share a lot of things. We can talk about the streets or whatever. That'd be great for me. Little did I know, that's not something she wanted to talk about. So when I breached that, Sarah, what's on, First off, I said, my family name was Vaughan, but we weren't related. That didn't go over well. And then when I said, we're from the same hometown, we're from Newark, and she says, I never talk. Now what do I know? You see, because I'm not trying to get information. I'm trying to get a little more familiar, right? But what my cautionary tale should have been is before I started asking her a question, I heard her talking to other people. And almost like every other word out of her mouth was a profanity. And I was like, do I really want to get myself caught out there like that? But she said, she showed me some grace. because I was young, And she says, well, what part of Newark are you from? Then I explained, so yeah, we just go down there and go roller skate. Look, we sort of had this little dialogue. It didn't last very long, but I felt like after I talked to her, I thought, well, yeah, that felt pretty good. Now I can approach other artists the same way because.
So around what time was this? What year was it, you think this?
This was, oh my goodness, this was in 19, let me see, I just started working in Connecticut. So.
You were a DJ at this time?
Yeah, I was down at the jazz radio station in Connecticut. And she was touring at the time. She was doing Stamford and Bridgeport. So if I had to put a time label on something like that, it was like in the mid-80s.
Okay.
I was at WJAZ up in Stamford. So,
right.
You see, Zawinul, who combined fusion music with Wayne Shorter, who was a traditional sax.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? You got all these guys now coming in, creating this new genre.
Fusion.
It was called fusion, but this was after Miles had it.
Right.
And a funny thing about
Jeff Lorber, that's who comes to mind. On keyboard
from the 90s.
Well, no, he was.
Well, 80s too.
He was more
dance part. You see, he was doing pop music. I remember Jeff Lorber. He was using R&B singers with his music.
So I would say, yeah, because Jeff's got a song with Lenny White.
Lenny White got a song with what's her name? A young lady. I gotta look that one up. And that was one of his most popular songs because she was the vocalist. Mm-hmm. When you hit Jeff Lorber, he was this long-haired guy playing all of these keys,
right?
And she did all the vocals.
Right.
But that was more R&B than anything else. But Jeff Lorber was a jazz pianist.
Right. So yeah, I mean, so he's like he from my experience, because that was about the time I was really getting serious about keyboards, listening to some of this stuff, and I want to say it had to be after '82, the mid '80s, definitely had to be the mid '80s when I first.
When it really kicked everybody off. Now I'm sure you and your audience are going to agree with this. Herbie Hancock, Headhunt.
Who?
Herbie Hancock.
Oh yeah. Now we go way back.
Now let me explain.
Because he goes way back.
Now I'm gonna give you a year, and I'll give you some artists to show you that's when the dynamic.
So what are we defining?
We're defining the music that genre now. Okay.
Contemporary jazz and where it came from.
Contemporary jazz. How we started getting into smooth jazz. Okay. When he did Headhunters, the group that he used were all traditional musicians, saxophone, bass, guitar, whatever. Mm-hmm. He was using synthesizers.
Herbie Hancock.
Mm-hmm. He was bringing synthesizers mainstream, okay?
Mm-hmm.
At that same time, you have Earth, Wind, and Fire starting to spread their wings.
Right.
Using synthesizers. Mm-hmm. You see? At that time, you had Jeff Lorber, synthesizer.
Right.
Deodato, synthesizers. Andreas Bolenweider, synthesizer. Mm-hmm. You see, all these guys using all these new instruments, all this new instrumentation, but it was still born out of the same thing. Mm-hmm. All right? You got these artists introducing new instruments, but these were the same artists that we would listen to when they were playing trios.
Yeah, definitely.
So now you have them contributing to this new genre called smooth jazz, which made it easier for a lot of artists to get noticed. Norman Brown, excellent guitar. But at that time, everybody was listening to George Benson.